Hello and welcome to the Bears, Birds, and Brews podcast. This is a show about the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, and craft beer. My name is Asif Lakhani, and my co-host is
Nabil Alani.
And on today's episode, we have a very, very special guest from Twisted Knot Brewing Co. We're going to get these beers poured, and we're going to talk to you all about it. Super excited for this. Nabil is going to take the lead on this. So I'm going to hand it off to him.
Hey, Andrew, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are y'all?
Doing good. These beers smell good, or this one beer for now. We got another one of your beers up here, but thank you for this beer. We appreciate it. We're super excited to try it out.
Yeah, so we just cracked open to, so I'm going to try to pronounce it again, Noctilucent?
Yeah, Noctilucent. So,
Noctilucent. Go ahead, talk
yeah,
about this.
yeah, it's a 6.6% double IPA. It's one of our flagships that we have. It's brewed with a lot of Golden Promise. It's got some Golden Naked Oats in there. It's brewed with a British ale yeast, so you'll probably get a little bit of maltiness off the back end of that.
Definitely.
It's got some hops on the nose. It's heavily hopped with Mosaic, Citra, and Galaxy in both the kettle and both the dry hop. So
Yeah, this is delicious. This is really good.
I feel like everything you just mentioned, I can get like a distinguishable palate. I can get it distinguishably on my palate. You know what I mean? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, all of it. A very well crafted beer.
And this is y'all's flagship. Like, is this the first beer you guys brewed for Twisted Knot?
So that is the first beer. That's the first single IPA that I brewed. That I hadn't done a home brew before. Whenever we started, so kind of took what I had learned from home brewing, took what I had learned from working on our bigger system, and just kind of applied that knowledge that I had into that beer, and used three of the prolific hops that you're going to see in a lot of beers right now: Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy.
Yeah.
So you use a lot of Citra in the boil, a lot of Galaxy in the boil, and then it's dry hop twice with a blend of Citra and Galaxy for the initial dry hop, and then it's finished off with Citra, Galaxy, and Mosaic for the second dry hop.
Gotcha. This is awesome. Thank you so much. And let's just start off by just talking about Twisted Knot. So you guys are located in Virginia, correct? Newport News.
Yeah, Newport News. So our area is called the 757. 7 cities. It's Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Suffolk, Chesapeake, Newport News, Hampton, and I always forget the 7th.
Is it Roanoke?
What's that?
Roanoke, Virginia?
Roanoke is kind of in the middle of the state, so it's a little ways away from us, but we're sitting there over on the coast, pretty close to Virginia Beach. So
Gotcha.
We're the second brewery to open up in Newport News. We're pretty small when you look at all the breweries that are around us. Most of the places are a 7 to a 30 barrel system. So a barrel usually equals about 30 gallons. So we're pretty small compared to a lot of other places, and we're really set up for tap room sales, and we do a little bit of canning on the side. Obviously, the current environment in the United States right now has caused us to make a shift to our business plan. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And well, it's been a crazy year for you guys. You guys opened up June last year, right?
Yeah, so we opened June last year. We're only open Fridays and Saturdays. We're open Fridays from 4 to 9 and Saturdays from 1 to 9. So we try to keep it pretty limited hours, and we try to focus on the hours that people are going to be off work and out trying to enjoy craft beer and good company.
Definitely. So, how has it been? I know you were saying, or, a moment ago that you guys originally weren't set up to, do a lot of canning. So I know you guys have an uptick in canning right now, right?
Yeah, so we're 100% doing to-go sales right now.
Hmm.
Um, so we're open from 3 to 6 every Friday. We have a website set up where people can order online. They come, we do a contactless pickup. So out back of our brewery, we have a roll-up garage door. People come up, give us their order number and name. We check their ID, set the beer on the table. They grab it and go off and enjoy the beers.
Enjoy some beautiful buds.
Yeah,
Do you think that the contactless delivery or to go beer sales is gonna be a permanent thing for your business moving forward? Because some breweries have had a lot of success with it, actually.
yeah, it's been pretty good for us as far as being able to keep the doors open. But obviously we were set up and our margins were set up on taproom sales.
Mhm.
So when you look at what we're putting into a beer that we sell out of the tap room, we're obviously making a considerable amount more profit off that. Um, and we don't have a canning machine, so we're manually filling everything. So it's a 7-second CO2 purge. It's a fill. It's a manual seal. It's manual hand labeled. I mean, if you look at the labels, you'll see that they're put on crooked a little bit. So they're not
We
perfect.
appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's craftsmanship, and it puts care and quality into your product that we can see and taste and feel.
Yeah, yeah, and I think one of the best things that somebody told me was when they got one of our early cans and they noticed that the can label was crooked, the beer was handwritten on the side in a permanent Sharpie marker. Um, and he was like, "Yeah, he's like, you can really tell that this was handcrafted. Pretty sure the cans that you all have a printed label on that." And
Yeah, they do.
yeah, we've just done that to save a little bit of time because we're manually canning anywhere from 2 to 700 cans every week. So
Oh,
that
wow.
usually works out to about a 3 to 10 hour process for the folks that are involved with the brewery right now.
Wow. Now, how many beers are you guys canning? Like, I know you have this one in the double we're gonna get to in a little bit, but how many beers are you guys actually canning for, to go sales?
Yeah, so right now, let me see what we have right now. I want to say we have a 10, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We actually have 12 available right now for to-go sales.
Oh, wow.
It's not
Awesome.
bad. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I know you said earlier that you try your beers to make sure they're tasting right, but at the same time there must be one that that kind of sits near your heart. What would you say is your favorite beer at Twisted Knot?
Right now, it's Noctilucent. I mean, that was a beer that I ran through our system the first time it came out. Everybody loved it. My wife,
Yeah, for sure.
uh, I think that a lot of people like it is because it's approachable. It's people see IPA and they usually look at more of the West Coast hoppy ones that where all your tastings hops. And we're like, hey, just try this one. It's smooth. It's got some fruity notes to it. It's not super bitter. You still get the normal beer notes like you would get out of a normal ale, but you still get those IPA notes that a lot of folks have grown to love.
Right.
So it's really a meld of kind of new school and old school for me that a lot of folks are really enjoying.
Yeah, like it's simple but complex. Like it has all the flavor palettes of a complex IPA, but there's nothing, too crazy going on in it, like, a milkshake type of IPA, or, it's not like a triple or anything like that where it's too high ABV for someone to, be kind of scared to drink it if they want something that, more approachable, like you were saying.
Mhm. Yeah, it was designed just to be a beer that it was designed really to be the beer that I would drink day in and day out. If I had one beer to drink for the rest of my life, that's kind of where my head was when I went in to design it.
Nice.
No, I think approachable, like Nabil said, and like you said, I think approachable is a great way to describe this beer for sure.
Mm.
So let's go a little talk more about about the brewery. Where did the name Twisted Knot come from?
So Twisted Knot came from, so there's three families that are involved with it. Um, Jeremy, who's our CEO and co-founder, his wife Carla, um, Dan, who's our business guy, and his wife Danielle, and then my wife Lorraine and myself. Jeremy's really the head brewer, CEO. It was all kind of his idea. Dan does all the business stuff that Jeremy and I don't want to deal with. I deal with a lot of brewing, a lot of our kind of creative direction, beer names, most of our social media marketing type stuff. So we kind of got three people that somewhat think alike in certain ways, but in other ways we think completely different. It's really kind of a really good combination that works pretty well. But the name Twisted Knot came from Jeremy's got a live edge oak bar top down in his basement, and there's I don't know if you've ever like been chopping through wood, or if you've ever seen one of those live oak things and you see like a knot in it, and it's just all twisted up. So that's kind of where the name for the brewery came from. We were sitting downstairs drinking one night, and we're like, "Oh, cool! It's a cool." I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of twisted." Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
I think it's a solid name. It's a memorable name. Like the first time, Bill told me, "Hey, this is gonna come on," and I haven't forgotten the name ever since the first time I was exposed to it and I saw it. It's just like it's very memorable.
Yeah.
And that was before I even tried the beer, so I think that's a good sign as well.
Cool, man.
Nice.
Um, so a quick question I have for you is like you talked about how brewery operations have changed during the pandemic, and obviously how you guys are trying to navigate through that. You just told us about you and then the two others who are essentially you're on your executive staff or what have you. But what has your day-to-day been like now from what you were doing before? I mean, how has that changed for you specifically?
Yeah, so this is kind of like a side business for all of us. We all have normal day jobs. Um,
Wow.
so it's kind of slowed down a little bit for me. It's kind of allowed me to get back to my brewing roots. Because when we were open Friday and Saturday, it was Lorraine and I were working Friday, Dan and Danielle were working Saturday. The next weekend, Jeremy and Carla were working, and Lorraine and I were working. So we were only getting off really about a weekend or two a month, depending on how it fell. Um, so it's really been it's allowed me to take that extra time that I have off from actually working in the brewery in the tap room to really kind of take a step back and look at my recipes, design new recipes. It's actually it's been good for me personally. Really hasn't been good for us as a business,
Of course.
but luckily with our can sales, and we're a pretty small place, we're still able to sustain business in the current environment.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So, as you're saying, you got new recipes that you've been thinking of during this time. Is there any type of recipes that you've already implemented, that you thought of during, this time that you've had, or are you thinking about implementing that a little later on this year?
So Trust the Process is really kind of the first new beer I've made with the techniques that I've kind of learned from brewing over the last year, on our professional system. So I kind of look at making beer a lot like I look at cooking. You start the dish, you put some seasonings in, cook it a little bit, put some more seasonings in, maybe let it simmer for a little bit, toss some other things in. And then once you finish the dish, you plate it and then toss another set of seasonings over it. So that's kind of the approach that I've been taking to a lot of our hoppy ales now, where I'm not just focusing on, hey, let's hit it with hops during the brewing process and then hit it with one big charge. It's more of a layering process. So I put a little bit in at this time during the brewing process, put a little bit in at this time when it's cooling down. I put a little bit on whenever I pull the yeast off. I drop the temperature of the beer slowly, toss some more hops in. And then it's really kind of layering hops in different parts of the process to try to really get a smoothness and to try to coax different flavors out of the grains and out of the hops that we're using.
Gotcha. Interesting. So before we move into the second beer, I did want to ask, since you were saying you're the one who, works on the names and you're in the brewing process, the first beer, Noctilucent, what does that name come from?
So it's a cloud. So it's the highest cloud in Earth's atmosphere. And if you Google it, you can find some pictures of it. And what it actually is it's ice crystals in between two layers in the atmosphere. And you only see it at sundown or sunrise. And you're going to see the light bounce off of those ice crystals, and you'll see like a little shimmering note to it. So that's where that came from.
Gotcha.
I love it.
Nice.
And you picked that name because you just liked it?
Yeah, I'm an engineer and an artist, and science and stuff kind of inspires me. And I was looking around because it's obviously a cloudy IPA. It's obviously hazy. So I was looking at just Googling cloud names, and it's like, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to pronounce, but different.
Yeah, reading's not my best skill. Drinking is reading, isn't
yes, he's very good at drinking. Which we're about to drink another one. So
yeah.
let's do this.
So we're about to go into the Trust the Process. It's the double IPA sitting at 8.5%. Let us know about this one.
Yeah, so that is a double IPA. It's brewed with a lot of pale malt. It's got some white wheat. It's got some flaked white wheat. It's got some flaked oats in it. A little bit of carapils. Put a lot of Galaxy, a lot of Amarillo. So you get a lot of those juicy pineapple notes off of it. You also get some piney, kind of resinous, kind of orangey notes from the Amarillo. And this was our first triple dry hop beer that we made. Kind of talking about that process that I was referring to earlier, where we layered it multiple times throughout the process. And, really happy with how this one turned out.
Yeah, I mean, the color looks beautiful on this. I mean,
yeah.
All right.
And I don't know if you mentioned, but it's an 8.5 ABV. So good, standard double status right there, I would say.
And like right on the sip, like the flavor just kind of busts at you. It's kind of hits you in the face with, the hoppiness, a little bit of bitterness too.
I like that. I actually get a lot of the fruit in it, just the bursting with the flavor, and I get a lot of just like flavor explosion there. But I see when the Bill's talking about now with the hop.
Yeah.
It like boom, and then it just opens it all up for you. I like that though. That's very well made.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really kind of focus. What I've been focused on a lot too is our water profile. The water that we get in Newport News is pretty solid, but what I've been focusing on now is really looking at my water profile and adding certain salts to it that are gonna accentuate the grains more and really make it more malty. And then that really allows me to bomb it with hops a lot and really kind of balance those two flavors, and then leave a little bit of residual sweetness into the beer as well, just to kind of smooth out the kind of medium high 8.5 ABV.
Nice.
So go for it.
So I think I may know this answer, but I'm going to ask you, anyway right now, and it may be a blend of what I'm going to ask you. Do you approach the brewing process as more of a science or more of an art?
It's a lot of art for me.
Okay.
There's a lot of science around it, and I mean, you can right now with the internet and with as much information as you can get from professional brewers online, you can make some fantastic homebrew, and you can scale that up to the professional level. But a lot of it is art. Um, there's a reason why a Monet is worth so much money,
Yeah.
because he painted it and he
Yeah,
knows how to paint it.
definitely.
So it's really more of an art form right now. There's still a lot of science behind it. Like if I'm not controlling my fermentation temperature, I'm going to get some really bad off flavors. If I mash in at too high of a temperature, I'm going to get off flavors. If I don't clean properly, I'm going to get some off flavors. But I really look at it as more of an art form now, and really looking at the ingredients that I can get and how to play with those.
And what's your favorite style of beer to brew?
Right now, I brew all of our IPAs and pale ales. Um, I haven't really brewed anything outside of that professionally. Um, Probably the best beer that I've ever brewed was a Belgian triple out of a homebrew kit. When I first moved out to Virginia about 14 years ago, and I don't know what it was about that beer, but I mean, I would love to have a bottle of it right now, because I'm sure it aged well. We used a champagne yeast on it and a Belgian yeast, and let it bottle ferment for a bit. And it was fantastic.
Are you going to try to recreate that at the brewery?
Nope, I don't want to try to recreate that. It's I'll go back to the Monet quote. He painted water lilies once and was good with that, and went on to something else.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I'm a big classic art fan and just fine art in general. So I love all these references personally. Question I had about this is, so you said that this was Trust the Process. This was maybe like the first beer you made in pandemic mode. What was kind of your thought process behind this from the artistry perspective of like the name and what you want people to walk away with from that? Besides just obviously making the killer beer, because this is excellent. I really like this.
Yeah, so where Trust the Process came from, I was at a workshop for my normal day job, and they flew a group of us up to New York, and they put us in this really awkward environment. They put a bunch of people from different organizations in our company in the same room. We had a bunch of whiteboards. None of it was scripted. We didn't have an agenda for what was going to go on from day to day. And the guy David that was running the workshop, what he told us at the very beginning, he's like, guys, look, we're here for 3 days. All I really want you to do is just trust the process, and we're going to come out of this, and we're going to have this problem solved. So that's kind of where that's where the name comes from, and really where my mentality came from relative to brewing the beer. So I was looking back at what I had done, what I had been doing, what worked well, what didn't work well, and was really just trusting my brewing process to kind of let all that lend little hints to how this beer was going to turn out.
No, I really like this.
It's a great brew.
Yeah, this is a really good one. And then real quick, sorry if I missed this before, but you said you moved out to Virginia 14 years ago. How long have you been home brewing for? How long would you consider yourself a brewer for? How long have you been brewing for?
So I started home brewing with my friend on the stove. When I first moved out to Newport News, didn't really know a whole lot of people. I graduated from college, moved out from just outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And one of the first friends I made she was really big into brewing beer. So we did some stuff on her stove. Then I realized that it was really hard to make really good beer on the stove, and I could buy stuff out on the shelves. And then ended up running into Jeremy, and we had a couple beers, or a couple cases of beers, and eventually decided to do this professionally. So.
Nice. I'm glad y'all decided that.
Yeah.
So just kind of like a side note, kind of like a pivot. This beer is called Trust the Process. Whenever I hear that, I just think of the Philadelphia 76ers. with the whole tanking situation and trying to like lose as much as they can to get high draft picks. And, you know, the GM was like, trust the process. So with that being said, sports are back and you are an avid hockey fan.
Yes, sir.
Nice. And so I know that hockey's ramping up starting on what, Saturday, right? That's the first game.
Yeah, they're doing some exhibition games right now. Before we jumped on this, I was watching the first couple periods of the Caps Canes game.
Nice.
Is that your team? I assume that's your team.
Yeah, the Caps is the team now. My wife was a huge Capitals fan. I grew up a Pittsburgh Penguins fan back in the Lemieux and Yager era.
Definitely.
But
So
after, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but after meeting Lorraine, going to a couple Caps games, they're kind of my jam now. We have 2 boxers, and one of their names is Obi. So,
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Ovi, I have to ask you an honest question. Has Ovi gotten sober from that summer of Ovi a couple of years back? I still think he's drunk.
he's a machine, man.
He definitely is. He's a
He just
drinking-
rolls. He just rolls.
All right. So if Ovi were to come to your brewery and ask for a beer, what would you give him?
I would probably give him one of our big stouts.
Okay. Describe one of them for me. Give me a name. Give me ABV.
Yeah. So our house coffee stout is called Robust Collaboration. It's a 12% coffee stout. We've done a couple barrel aged versions of it. We did one in a normal bourbon barrel for a local distillery out in Newport News called Ironclad. We did another one. We aged it in some maple bourbon barrels from there. And then right now, we technically have it on tap, but we're not open for tap sales. We have a cinnamon version of that beer as well. So
nice.
Yeah.
I love coffee stouts. So, I love IPAs, love all that, but you know, I love coffee stouts, love milk stouts. Those are my jam right over there. So, you know, you're saying you guys have a barrel aged coffee stout. It's like, wow, that's my jam, right?
Yeah, we have we have Robust Collaboration, which is our normal coffee stout. We have Milky Waves, which is our 7.3 milk stout. We have a brown called Bad News Brown, based on Newport News. It used to have a bad rap for being a pretty big crime town. We have a wheat beer called Wheaty Pops, and I think what other house beers we have. I think that kind of rolls through our house beers right now, along with Noctilucent. So,
gotcha. All right, so let's say the impossible happens, and somehow the Blackhawks are eliminated, and then the Capitals go all the way, and they win the Stanley Cup. How would you?
Which they've done before, actually.
Yeah,
a couple years ago.
How would you feel? Is it a true Stanley Cup? Is it a pandemic Stanley Cup? What is it?
I think it's really a true Stanley Cup from my perspective, because you look at all the craziness that's going on right now, and what a lot of people are really looking for is really kind of like something to unite and get together, because you can't have that face-to-face interaction with folks and that like legitimate cheering sitting next to somebody. Having that sports connection virtually, I think is just as important as being able to give somebody a high five and spill a beer on them when your favorite player scores a goal.
Definitely. All right.
Well, quick question, and essentially my question is, like, if you had to make a beer for the Capitals, right? Like, let's say they come to you and they say, hey, we want a team beer. We'll sell it in the arena once we get back to hockey in the stand. Like, what would your mindset be going into making a beer like that? What kind of beer would you make for them?
What I'd probably look at making would be a pale ale, something around 5%, something that's pretty smooth, slightly hoppy, maybe like a toned down version of Noctilucent.
Mm-hmm.
Just something that's easy drinking and approachable, that you could be satisfied with having one of them, or if your team was going on a run that night, you could have 6 or 7 of them if that was your jam.
Well,
There we go.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go the Falcons right and be like, if your team is a constant disappointment, then you need something to drink.
So you brew the beer, and I already got the name. Hoppy Sticks.
Hoppy Sticks.
Hoppy
That's
Sticks.
fire.
Done. Hoppy Sticks.
Fire. I had one more question I wanted to ask you too, because I can relate to this in a way, which is, so I do stand up, and I do stand up comedy, and I also do writing, freelance writing, magazine articles, blogs, whatever, in addition to podcasting, my day job, whatever. But one thing you said before we started the conversation was that you don't really drink many of your beers once you're off the clock. So for you, it's like, you mentioned the chef thing before, where it's like you drink at the brewery to taste the recipe, but once you're home, you kind of like to drink like your classic beers, or maybe support some of your other brewery friends and drink their beers. So I was just wondering if you could talk us through that process, because for me, once I write an article, I'm done with it. I'm not going back to read it, and it's like, for me, I can be overly critical of it unnecessarily, and like, oh, I could have said this, I should have said this, and like, that's not even good. How did they let that get written? So I just wonder, like, if you could talk us through that process, because you're probably the first brewer I've met who said, like, who's openly admitted, like, I like my beer, I drink it, but in moderation, sort of. So just, if you could talk through that a little bit, because that's interesting to me.
Yeah, so really the way that I look at it is I'm trying to learn from my beer, really. I'm trying to understand, okay, cool, this is what I did right. It tastes consistent. If it's one of our flagship beers, or if it's one of our new beers, I'm like, oh, cool, this hop combination was killer, or oh, I really messed this one up. I don't need to try that one again. But it's looking at it from, hey, what's this beer trying to teach me, and how can I make this beer better? Versus, oh yeah, this is a great beer, I just need to drink a bunch of it. Because where I look at it is, I would rather get the limited amount of beer that we have out into our consumers' hands versus just kind of squandering it all and keeping it for myself. So that's kind of really where my head's at about it. As far as our traditional style beers, they age very well. Our hoppy beers, I think as soon as they go into the can, they need to be drank. They probably have a legit shelf life of probably 3 months is probably about the max. But I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed that if you get some heavily hopped, unpasteurized beer, eventually all that haze settles out into the bottom, and you get some chunkies, and you try to roll it around a little bit to get everything blended back up. And to me, all our beer is unpasteurized. It's designed to be drank as soon as you get it into your hand, and we're hoping that we'll be around to make more.
Oh, you guys definitely will. You're making amazing products. So thank you again. This is great.
Thank you.
That was what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Is he going to bust out a beer?
Yeah, I had to get another beer out.
Oh, nice. I was like, oh, what's about to happen? All right.
I'd asked my wife to, I was like, hey, could you bring me a beer up? She's like, oh, I really don't want to be on the call. So
What she should be.
She's probably, the game might have finished up about now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how about this? How about this is completely off the cuff? How about you review whatever beer you're drinking right now? Because we have no idea what you're drinking. We want you to review that beer right now.
I would say the can art looks kind of familiar, but if I tried to guess,
is that a Veil?
Be right.
Yeah, it's a Veil beer.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, this is premium sauce from the Veil. Really, really great brewery. Really great people that own the brewery. Super blessed to live out in Virginia, especially so close to Richmond.
I love Richmond, Virginia.
That's Nabil's like hidden beer capital of the world. Essentially, is like that area.
Most underrated beer place in the U.S.
Yeah, so that's actually how I got connected with you way back in the day. So the first beer release that that I ever went to at Vail, I met Murad, who subsequently let me to meet Naveed, who subsequently, I guess, led me to you guys. So,
Yep. And it's going to be a rabbit hole. Keep going. So don't worry. You're going to meet
yeah. So just really super cool. But like Murad and I were standing in line waiting for beer at the Vail. It was back when they were limiting everything to like, it's probably a couple 4-packs per person. So it was kind of hard to get. Wasn't that hard to get if you wanted to wait in line. But it was the hype beer at the time, and they've been producing great stuff since. So
Definitely.
yeah, so this is premium sauce. It is a 6% single IPA. They brew this a handful of times. A lot of people probably noticed that Vail doesn't brew the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And they probably do that for a number of reasons. But the reason why we don't brew the same beer over and over again, especially when we're talking about IPAs, is because hop lots change so much throughout the year. Depends on when it was harvested, where you got it from. Hops are a lot like wine grapes. So you could get a lot from this place in Oregon, and the citrus is going to taste like this. You get a lot from this other place in Oregon, Citra, same year, and it's going to taste a little bit different. So it's really, you got to either have to have a hop contract, which a lot of the bigger breweries have, or you really have to smell them and really experiment with them to see what's going to happen over time.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
Yeah, so I know this has Galaxy in it, because Galaxy is going to give you that kind of bright yellow tone to it. I think it's got a little mosaic in it. So Galaxy is going to give you like some pineapple, some kind of OG flavor. Some people want to say onion and garlic. Other folks want to say tastes like other OG products. And the mosaic, you're going to get a lot of berry notes off of it. So that's really what I'm getting a lot out of this beer.
Oh yeah.
Nice. One sip, everybody knows the rules.
Yeah. It's super smooth. Get a little bit of sweetness from it. So I think they intentionally probably left a little bit of unfermented sugars in there just to give you a little sweetness on the back end. But the hops really play very well with this beer. Vail does fantastic things with all their beers, but their single IPAs have been shining for me recently.
Nice. I mean, it looks like a fantastic beer.
Yeah, it looks really good.
You know, this may have been like the most fantastic beer we've had on an episode before. I mean, episode at this point, you know, we got this amazing beer you brought. You're drinking Vail. You know, it's just awesome beer all around.
Some of the best, really, that you can get. Well, yeah, go for it.
Oh, so no, you can go ahead right now.
Oh, well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, what, before we wrap up, because I don't know where we are on time, but in terms of what do you have to say to the people who are listening about your beer, who you are, like, what do you want to say that we haven't got to yet? And it doesn't even have to be about beer; it could be about whatever.
Really, just I don't really want to say a lot about our beer because if you're not in Newport news, you're not going to get our beer. Unless you know some people that are going to trade it with you or some folks that are going to ship it to you. But really what I'd like to say is just get out and support your local small breweries, because those are the places that need it right now. That buying a 4-pack means a lot. I know it means a lot to us. And really the other thing that I'd like to say is just try to put yourself in other folks' shoes nowadays, because it's hard for everybody. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. And just try to be be as compassionate as you can be and be as friendly as you can be to folks.
I love that.
Definitely.
I know personally I needed that today. So thank you for that. That was really nice.
Yeah. So thank you again. It's Twisted Knot Brewery in Newport, Virginia. Right
Newport News, right?
Newport News, Virginia. I'm sorry, Newport
Trust
News,
the
Virginia.
process, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm sure next time I'm in Virginia, I'm definitely going to stop by. Hopefully by that point, we'll be past this pandemic and, in a better situation. And, hey, thank you again, man. Really appreciate your time. Asif, anything else?
No, thank you for the beers. And it's, even though people can't maybe get the beers, they can follow you on Instagram at Twisted Knot Brewing Co. Is that right?
Yeah, at Twisted Knot Brewing Co. And if you just search Twisted Knot Brewing Company on Facebook, you'll find us there. If you use hashtag Twisted Knot, you'll get some interesting follows.
I feel like you guys would kill at weddings, man. I feel like Twisted Knot, Time Knot. Like, I feel like you guys would kill in the wedding catering business.
I would look at all the hashtag Twisted Knot stuff. It'll make you laugh.
All right. Hashtag Twisted Knot.
Hashtag Twisted Knot 757 is our stuff. So
there you go. All right, that's good.
Good to
clarification. Yeah. At Twisted Knot Brewing Co. Hashtag Twisted Knot 757. Andrew.
Yep.
And your last name is
Schlichte.
We'll just go with Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew works.
Yeah. Asif, Nabil, Twisted Knot Brewing Co. Bears, Birds, and Brews. Thank you very much. We're going to talk to you more in a second, but we're going to wrap it up here, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us. And
Caps Blackhawks Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, man.